Welcome back to Life, Biz and All That Jazz. I'm your host, Jasmine Lisciotto, and if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the start of the beginning for you, the beginning of your transformation, because you are deserving of your most aligned dream life, and it just takes one step to make the change. And if you've come back for more, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you back. It's so inspiring and just so humbling to hear all the kind messages that I always hear from you all about the podcast and the progress that I'm making. And you really don't realize how much your support means to me. So I'm glad you've come back for more. So before we go into today's episode, I do need to share a trigger warning. This conversation does include discussions of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and also trauma. So please listen with care. I just wanted to let you know this at the beginning of the episode in case this does trigger anything for you. Take breaks if you need. You can always press pause, and just remember that your well-being needs to come first. Now, with that being said, today's story is one that shows courage, inspiration, and empowerment. And I'm so excited to bring today's guest on with you because I feel like we are going to be friends for life now. And there's something so cool about doing podcasts with people from all over the world is we really come back to one similar vision, and that is to show people that they don't need to feel stuck. They don't need to feel lost. They don't need to regret or live a life that doesn't feel like theirs. Easier said than done, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to show you proof. I'm here to show you that I'm not the only one talking about this. And that's what Cari Rickabaugh is all about. Cari's story is overcoming trauma, not only just to survive, but to thrive. And when I heard her say those words to me, I was like, wow, we have a lot of things in common. And one thing is, I've always said, it's not about surviving, it's about thriving. We're going to deep dive into showing you that you can accomplish anything, that anyone is capable to succeed and live their best life. Today's episode is also for anyone who believes that trauma has had the final say in their life, and that trauma is going to be carried with them forever. You're never going to forget what you've been through, but there's ways to allow that to become strength and resilience, and to show yourself that you have been through a lot of hard times, but you came through the other side. Before I bring Cari on today, I will let you know that she is a coach, a founder of the Resilience Mind and Body Coaching, and also a contributing author to A Journey of Riches, Unlock Your Hidden Potential. Today's conversation is honest, emotional, and deeply empowering. That's enough from me. Let's get in and listen to today's episode. Cari Rickabaugh, welcome to Life, Biz, and All That Jazz. How are you today?
I am wonderful, Jasmine. So good to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you for spending your time with me. I'm really, really excited for our chat today. And it's evening where you are right now. How's the weather?
It is hot. We're actually under a heat advisory right now, so super hot.
What's a heat advisory? I've never heard of that. We don't have, and I live in Australia. We don't have.
So it's where the weather is, the index gets hot. So it's really humid. I don't know if it's humid in Australia, but it's humid here. So it's like, I don't know, 90, I think it's about 90, 91 degrees here, and that's Fahrenheit, but it's over 100 with the humidity. So the heat index is so high that it's a warning that goes out for people to stay hydrated, not work outside. Air conditioners are having a really hard time keeping up. And so, yeah.
Yeah, we do have something similar. The trades that work outside, once it gets to a certain, they get to go home. So they like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I'm very excited for this episode today. I think what you have to share is very inspirational. I'll use that word first, but also very common, and in a way that a lot of us hold our trauma to us and feel like it is a part of us in a way that the way that we have to live. So there's something that you said to me before our chat today, and it was something that I actually have always kind of said in my head when I got to a point to overcome trauma and, live my life, is it's not about surviving, it's about thriving. And they're very powerful words you can have. And I want you to start from the beginning of where you kind of realized that you needed to change, or go back as far as you want to go back and have a chat and share with us today.
Sure. So the beginning for me, so the beginning of the story was, I thought the beginning was age 12, 13, right around there. So that was the first time I remember having a traumatic experience. The first time I felt like that shift and I knew life was different and, things like that. And it went from there for the next roughly 30 years, a lot of mental, emotional, spiritual abuse, that kind of thing. And I, just like you said, I thought I had to play that role of the victim, of the, poor me, I went through all of these things. And there were so many things about myself that I didn't really like, but I couldn't change. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't change. And I didn't know why. And so while my friends were moving on with their lives, I stayed stuck in this holding pattern for about 20 years until I met up with a really good friend of mine 18 years later and noticed he had changed. And I'm like, I'm still the same person that I was. Like, what is going on? And so I I went through a lot of therapy. I went through 3 therapists and none of them could really help me. Talk therapy didn't do a whole lot. And I ended up being connected with this coach. And this coach went and did neurolinguistic programming. He did some somatic work. He had this very unorthodox method. And in that, we worked for about a year to heal that, not fully heal, but process and start to let go of the trauma for those 30 years. And then once we peeled back enough layers, then the trauma from the first 10 years of my life came back. And that was trauma that I had forced myself to forget when I was 10 years old. And that was me being sexually abused by a family member from before I can remember. And so that was what was underneath everything that wasn't allowing me to change because that was controlling the way I reacted. It controlled the thoughts I had, the beliefs I had, the inability to be able to react differently or feel differently. And that was the moment, like once that all came to light, that's when I knew something could be different and something needed to be different. But that was the first time I had a possibility of something being different.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think you're very brave, and I'm sure you feel that in yourself with what you do and why you share what you share, because you're the voice of a lot of people. And something I live by is why I heal out loud, and why I started this podcast is we have to be the voice for the silent, and hopefully one day that they will come through and they will speak. I think for me as well, I'm not sure if this is the same for you, but the more that you share, do you feel like it helps you? I know we can go to therapy. Like you said, you had therapists. I've had a lot of therapists, but I think it can also depend on what you've been through to see if certain therapy is going to work for you, because not all therapy, and can I call it mainstream therapy?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we'll refer to it as mainstream therapy, because I've been to therapists before, and one thing that made me think I need to try something different was she said to me, and look, she's obviously was a professional in all respect, and this is not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I think it's great. I've got a lot of friends that have been through stuff that this has really helped, so I don't want to come across in a negative way, but the way that she heard my story and she just said, "Oh, you've had a very colorful childhood." And I think that is like, I'm sure you can see how I just thought colorful childhood. Well, and then I thought, okay, some people this is good for, but this is not good for me. And for me, it was similar growing up, but in a way, my dad had bipolar. So he tried to manage as best as he could. He was a loving dad when he could be the best dad, but when he had his episodes, there was a few. My first one was 12, and he got taken away and he had to go to a institution, and he always came back though and tried to turn his life around, and he tried, but this is going back 30, or wait, not 30 years ago, about 25 years ago now, and he just didn't have the help then.
Mhm.
And his family, like my mom, everyone tried, but there was no help there. So similar as well is like I hid a lot of stuff and I buried a lot of stuff. So growing up and seeing things like that, and this wasn't till I was 28 when he actually took his life. So he turned his life around again and did all this charity work, and at 28, that's when things changed in a way where I thought that I healed that part of me. but it didn't. It got worse for a few years at least. And it wasn't until I actually removed alcohol that I did the real deep healing. And this was not just normal healing, that it was a lot of more spiritual in a way, like deeper, like meditation, stuff like that. And there's still things now, and I'm not fully healed. I'll never be, in a way, but I'm thriving. And I know that you see that as well. And I think something else that you said to me before today was that you never thought you would accomplish anything. And we hold that victim mentality and think that this is who I am, this is a part of me, but it's not, is it? It's something we've been through. It's a chapter of our lives. And another thing, it's our story, but it's not our purpose. So I'd love for you to share your take on that.
Sure. There's so many things that came to me while you were speaking. First, so here's what I'm trying to go with my intuition. So we'll go with this first. I spoke at an event in January at a conference in front of 250 people. This was the first time I'd ever spoken that story, that part of my life, and shared that, which I knew would be a piece of healing, like you talked about. Sharing it does bring a little bit of healing every time, because it brings possibility for others to heal. I truly believe is what it is. But this was a 3-day conference. I spoke on right after lunch the second day, and between then and the third day, there were women that just kept coming up to me and throwing their arms around me, just sobbing and saying, I've never met anybody who's had a childhood like mine. And I'm saying, yeah, you have. You just don't know, because it's very much taught societally that we keep quiet about it because it makes other people uncomfortable. And I had a couple of these women say, I didn't know I was allowed to speak about this. I didn't know I was allowed to let go of it, or that I didn't have to carry this. And so I think part of it is a lot of times we don't know we have the choice. We don't know that we have the choice to not be a victim. And I have been truly blessed to have so many friends who have had this experience in their life and are down the road much further than I am. And so they've been able to help me and validate my feelings and my experiences and say, all of this is okay. I mean, when it first started coming back to me, I literally went back into that child mentality, and I had all those same feelings and scared. I'm like, I can't speak about that because that's what we're taught when we're being abused. You keep this quiet. You don't share this with anybody. And normally that comes from your abuser. And sometimes it'll come from people who know the abuse is happening, whether they're the ones abusing you or not. And I've even met men who have been sexually abused as children, who have felt like we can't societally, we won't be accepted, so we can't share this. So I think that's a big part of it. I think another part of it is there's not necessarily a lot of people who know how to deal with it, who are in the therapy industry. And I know I went through 3 therapists because I knew it was time for me to process. I knew it was holding me back. And all 3 therapists, I started telling them my story, but I started telling them from when I was 12, right? Because that's what I thought the first traumatic event was. And all 3 of them very quickly just said 12 weeks. You'll be good in 12 weeks. And I'm like, this is 30 years of trauma. How do you know that in 3 months I'm going to be okay? And they're like, well, you just go back and reparent yourself. How do I do that? Well, that's just what you do. Okay, but when I go back, I'm still that scared little child. I don't know how to step out of that and be a parent that I didn't have an example of to be. And they're like, well, that's just what you do. And so it very much, to me, and my assumption is that none of them have been through this deep trauma, but this is what they learned in school. So they're treating it as if here's the symptom, so this is automatically the cure. And not, like you said, not everybody's brains work the same. And so not every method will work the same. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. If it doesn't work for you, we need to find something else. And so that's what I love to do in sharing, is having these experiences, not only of the trauma, but of these healing experiences that didn't work, and going from one method to another and saying, let's find out what works for you. Because if this doesn't work, there's no point in us doing it. I felt so broken. I felt like I was too broken to be helped, and that my life wasn't worth living because these 3 professionals were just saying, this is what you do, and I couldn't do it. And so that's where I was, that played another role of me being stuck in that victimhood, being stuck in this is how I am and nothing can ever be different. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. It's like that internal story that we tell ourselves, and then we constantly hold on to that. And then we have our subconscious. So the more that we're identifying as a victim or the trauma, the deeper it's going, the deeper it continuously goes. And I think it's really, once you start to uncover that and do find something that works, it all unfolds. And I think similar with what you were saying about a lot of therapists go to school, and I really don't want to be like bashing on therapists because they're
Not at all.
amazing.
Not at all. They are.
But trauma is deeper than our thoughts and our memories. You know, it really does embed in our nervous system and in different ways, and we hold a lot of trauma. So it's not the fact that we can just flick a switch and just think, okay, I'm going to start this therapy and do ABC and rewire my brain and everything's going to be okay. I think another factor that plays into it as well is stuff that I've recently found out through research, and I'm doing a neuroscience course because I'm a nerd and I just love the brain. And I think this is going to really complement what I'm doing with the podcast. And then maybe I'll go on to do something else as well. So I think one thing with our brain is that trauma shapes our brain from early, depending on how old we are, and our brains are shaped from zero. So if you experience things at a child, your brain's going to react different to life circumstances because of the trauma. And this is something people that haven't been through trauma, and bless them, they try and support. Most people will. And it's that not understanding. You can't understand how someone's feeling and tell them you'll get over it, you'll be okay, because it's more than just a memory and a thought. It's embedded into their, personality, your character traits, and your constant daily way of thinking. And I think that's when understanding the subconscious really does help with the next stages to healing. What do you think about subconscious? What do you want to say when we talk about the word subconscious? What's your thoughts? Because I think powerful brain.
Oh gosh. I love that you're doing neuroscience. I absolutely love it. Let me tell you, it's what?
Let's chat neuroscience.
So let me tell you a little bit about my experience with that.
Yes.
I started having seizures at 20 years old, which is very uncommon unless there's a tumor, a previous brain injury, something. One day out of the blue, was a seizure. Nobody was there to experience it. My mom took me to the ER and they said, well, no, it probably wasn't anything. It likely wasn't a seizure. And I'm like, pretty sure it was. And then 10 days later, I had another one and it was a little bit different than the first one, but she happened to witness it. And so they ran me through the gambit of tests, the MRIs, the EEGs, everything, and they couldn't find anything. They could find no reason why I had started having seizures as an adult. And so they said, well, we'll put you on medication for a year and we'll see what happens. And after a year, they started weaning me off and I kept having seizures. So they're like, well, you'll just be on medication for the rest of your life. We don't know why it's happening. And so it's something that I just started living with. Then as I was getting older, I started developing fibromyalgia. I started developing chronic fatigue. I developed PCOS. I started developing all of these immune issues. And I've been a massage therapist for almost 24 years now. And there was about two or 3 years where I had to quit doing massage because I would work an office job in my office and then go back down the hall and sleep in my bed. And that's all I could do all day. I had I was in so much pain, so much fatigue. I was having seizures all the time. They just couldn't figure out what was going on. When I finally started healing this trauma, the fibromyalgia started going away. Haven't had any seizures since. The chronic fatigue started going away. I have a thriving massage business. I now have a new coaching business. I now run, I cold plunge. I do all these things that I never thought I would be able to do. And it's because, and that's why my business is called Resilience Mind and Body, because I think the body affects the mind and the mind affects the body. And I think the subconscious is the center of all of it. And the subconscious is like, well, we're going to put this in these cells. We're going to put this in this muscle. We're going to put this in the energetic emotional releases or reactions that we have. And that's why we can't change them, is because everything is pre-programmed, like you said, from a kid, pre-programmed. And that's just how we are. And it takes a conscious work on specifically catching the hidden things, catching those patterns, catching those beliefs, catching all of those reactions to be able to shift those. And it's a funny way the brain works.
It is. It's funny and powerful. And I think you don't realize how powerful it is until you start to look into that. And something that off topic, but it's about a tattoo. I don't know if you have tattoos, but I want to get a tattoo. I wanted to get resilience or purpose. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, but now you've helped me. I'm going to get resilience. You've pushed that over because I just feel like this is my sign. I was waiting for a sign to think of what, and resilience sticks with me more because purpose, I like that. Let's have a bit of a chat now. I'd love to switch gears a bit and talk about resilience, mind and body. So that's your coaching business.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
what can you share today with our audience? Some little take home, little mini tips that you do with your coaching. And you're not just a coach to me. If I was looking for a coach, I would look at you. You're a coach, but it's more than that. It's deeper than that word. I think if we could have like level of coaching, you would be expert, because you're not just doing a course on coaching. Like
Right.
you've got the background to it and the understanding. And I think that runs deeper than, just being able to get a certificate and do that. So I think it's really important. So I'd love for you to share on that.
Thank you. Thank you. So with my massage background of 23 years, and then 13 years ago, I went back to school and I got a certificate of master bodyworker. And then along with all of those, I do a lot of energy work. So that's what I've been doing for 2.5 decades. And then with the coaching, I actually integrate all of them. So if somebody is here locally, I've started doing this technique of where I put people on the table, do a massage, do energy work. We bring some trauma or issues or whatever to the surface and coach them through it in the moment. And so it's this whole full holistic mind and body healing. And we can still do things to the same effect, but not to the same degree over social media. But I have clients all over the world, and I'll do a lot of somatic work with them. I'll do energy work with them. We actually get in the body, and we tap into the subconscious, and we say, where am I holding this? What is this? Where did this come from? What do I need? Your body will tell you, what do I need to heal this? Sometimes we do neuro-linguistic programming and we actually go back into the memories and we work through those memories, sometimes rewrite them or whatever is needed. And then we do the coaching, which is so much of the mindset, saying, well, where does this belief come from? I mean, we find so much of our beliefs were given to us and we decided to hold on to them. So if somebody ever told you that you were fat or you were stupid or you were ugly or you were clumsy and you grew up into an adult and you believe that and you don't know why, well, it's because we've chosen, not knowing any better, that we're going to hold on to that. We believe that. And mindset coaching really is just about letting all of that go and saying, if it's not serving you, you don't have to hold on to it. And it's okay. Self-forgiveness plays a huge part in that. Self-love plays a huge part in it. It's this, what I love is that I give people hope. I call myself a catalyst of hope because there's so many people out there tried therapy, that have tried massage, that have tried coaching, have tried all of these different things, and it just doesn't fully work for them. And if we go back to the survive or thrive, they feel like they're just surviving every day. They're white knuckling their way through the day. And I get to help people get rid of all that, bring them peace, bring them settlement, and just thrive. Because I was so limited in the beliefs of what I could do. And if I didn't believe it, there was no way I was ever going to try it. And these beliefs ran so from before I can remember, and they do for all of us. And so once I was able to work with a coach who was able to help me let go of these beliefs that I had kept telling myself and had programmed my subconscious to remind myself of anytime I made a mistake, anytime I tripped, anything, then that opened up so much space for me to step forward into what I had always wanted to do and to start doing it. I never thought that I would be speaking on stage. I've wanted to since I was a teenager. I never thought that I would run. I still don't like it, but I love the fact that I do it. I have a foot issue right now, and I keep asking my foot doctor if I can run, and he goes, no. And he's like, you like running? And I'm like, I hate it, but I like the fact that I can do it. And it's, it's amazing what you can accomplish. It's amazing who you find out that you truly are once you're able to pull the blocks of the wall down that you've built in front of yourself your entire life.
Yes, no, there's a few things there that you said. I think the beliefs are, they say, from a certain age, they say 1 to 7. You heard that, like that's a big core years. And beliefs can be changed at any point. And it's not easy. It's not an overnight fix. And I know you'll agree with me with that. It's not something that you can just flick off, just the same as therapy. It does start with the small steps. And I think what can be hard for people to begin with, to begin this journey, is that it takes work. And a lot of the times we are human and we don't want to do as much work. We want to just see that, instant gratification. And then we have the default negative where our brain just wants to keep us safe. The last thing our brain wants us to do is to uncover trauma that we may have buried or hidden. But it's those beliefs and the deconditioning and, the rewiring the mind that will push us through to that next stage of healing. And so you mentioned something about somatic healing. I'd love you to explain more on that, because I've been doing some research to do some stuff like that myself. And have you heard of 9D breathwork?
9D? I haven't.
It's quite new here in Australia, and it's got a mixture of breathwork, meditation, and like somatic healing. And you have headphones on, the room's dark, and they do it in quite big group sessions. But because you've got headphones on and you've got eye mask on, it's still very private. But yeah, I've seen, yeah. But I'd love for you to touch on like the somatic side and explain that a little bit more for people that don't really understand.
Sure. Somatic is really all about, there's different ways that you can do somatic work, but it's really all about tapping into your inner self, right? And a lot of it is, it's based in energy. So it's where you put your energy. So there's ways that you can do somatic work that are physical. You can lay on your bed, you can bring your legs up and move your legs around. You can twist your hips. You can do certain actual movements that help unlock trauma. And then you can also do a lot of it visually in your head. So a lot of times when I start working with somebody, we'll start our sessions with grounding. And so we'll get somebody grounded. I'll walk them through some sort of something. Again, I try and work really intuitively per person and what they need. But then we'll go into the feeling. Where are you noticing something within your body? Is it in your lungs? Is it in your chest? And there's a difference between the two. Is it in your legs? Is it in your feet? Or is it in your back? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Does it have a texture? How big is it? Is it a color? Is it moving? Is it still? And what is it saying to you? And that's really tapping into your inner child and the things that your inner child needed that they didn't get, that you're still holding on as an adult and are controlling certain things in your life. They're controlling. For me, one thing that my inner child controlled, because she was always terrified, is if anybody came to her and said anything negative, I automatically reacted and would start defending myself and yelling at people and just being, I couldn't stop and listen because I didn't ever feel like I had ever been listened to. And so I always had to defend myself. Well, as an adult, that came into play with every interaction that I had, that somebody had something negative to say to me. And so it's tapping in and saying, where am I holding that? How am I holding that? What does it look like? What does it want? What does it need? There's this great analogy that a couple of friends of mine use that are coaches. It's talking about being a bus driver on a school bus. And the first time this was ever said to me, like, it made so much sense. I love this. I share this all the time. And it was saying, pretend you are a bus driver and you're driving in the city and there's all this traffic and it's raining and cars are cutting you off and people are walking out in the street in front of you and things are just going crazy. And then you've got all of these kids in the back and one of them is just jumping up and down and screaming and yelling. And so what do? You pull the bus over, you tell the child to come up and you sit him on your lap and you say, what do you need? What are you trying to tell me? What is it you need me to hear? And then you don't always figure it out right away, but you at least start tapping in to that part of your nervous system that is trying to protect you. Like you said, running the old, same familiar patterns. And once you can figure out what it needs, then you just give it a hug and you love it and say, I love you. And I hear you, and I'm going to help you through this. And I need to drive. I need to keep going. So I'm going to ask you to go sit down, but know that adult me, is in control and we can handle this together and I will help you through it. And the way that shifts the nervous system, like when you're in the moment and grounded, can be life-changing for people, because then they recognize as soon as that feeling, that reaction, that whatever comes up again, they recognize it and they're like, oh, I can choose to do something different. I don't have to do what I always did. For me, it was, if somebody says something to me that triggers me, I can stop and take a breath. I can stop and hear them. And then I can think about what they're saying and saying, is that really true? Like you said, it is not automatic. It takes a lot of work. But the first time you see that work, it gives you so much encouragement and so much power, because you want to do it again, because you want to be different. And then the next time it'll come a little bit easier, and the next time a little bit easier. And then you start working on different things and you get to a point where you're like, I can, like you said, we're not perfect. We are still always going to deal with our triggers and our trauma and our past. And those times get further and further apart, and they get less and less triggering, and they get easier to catch ourselves and move forward in a different direction because we've done the deep work. And so it's just staying with it long enough to see that first little switch.
Yes, that's right. That was really powerful what you shared. And it's not, healing's not linear. No, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And like you said, once you do uncover that first bit, it's lifelong, but it can also be a level of awareness that you have for yourself that makes you constantly want to do better and grow. And when I first stopped drinking, that's when I noticed like a lot of things, and I was using wine. Like I'd love a wine. I think it could be my Italian heritage, but I would used it to cope. But then after that, a lot of things came out. I got diagnosed with ADHD, and that's something that I had my whole life, but never got noticed. One, growing up in a chaotic environment, and number two is I was a girl, so I was good at hiding it, and I got really good at masking. And I still see myself, I don't mask as much these days, but my personality, depending on who I'm around, you get the full me. Yep. My niece and nephew probably get, they're 5 and 3. They probably get the biggest, funniest version of me, because I can be my inner child, and that's something, that I couldn't be sometimes when I was younger. And I think as well, something else, I'm jumping a bit here, but the inner child stuff, I have a picture which is just near where I am sitting right now, and it's a magnet. And back when, I don't know, when I was little, like they used to get photos as magnets. You can still do it today, but this is like the old school one where the photo's printed and it's like on the back, or it was a pin or something. But I'm about 5, and I'm dancing on a table. And that's something that when I saw that, I was like, I need to keep that when I started to do the work. And I had it on my mirror in my bathroom for a few years, and now I've just got it, near my desk. And that's when my healing really first started. And I love that, what you were saying about that bus analogy, because once I looked back and thought, you were a child, you were doing your best when you went through things. No one's to blame. That's for my circumstances. Everything happened. What it taught me is that you can go through hard times but come out the other side. And that's exactly what we're both doing today. And it's really detaching that and knowing that forgiveness is needed, like you said. And that's something else that I was thinking about. I was trying to remember things. I should probably start taking notes sometimes, because, it's a lot. We're doing a lot of chatting. You said about the forgiveness and kindness, and there's a lot of stages in healing as well, isn't there? And one thing I want people to understand is you might feel a bit of regret that you maybe didn't go back sooner and look at this. Why am I only doing this now? I've wasted this time. And then that's the whole just surviving. You may have spent years and years, but you've still got so much, and it doesn't matter on time. Time is just a number. It matters on, I think, quality, and the quality of life that you can have and you can change. And it's once you kind of move through that, because for me, it would have been at first, and I don't like using that word regret. It's like, what if I stopped drinking sooner and I would have uncovered all this sooner? Would have been different. I guess a lot of the thing as well is people, they are surviving. Most people are still ticking things off that they want to do, but they also could be having that feeling of, I could have done better. Yes, I was still, going through life and moving through life and probably look like a normal person in society, but deeper down, we know that we could have done better. Yeah.
Do you know, there is something that I still have to remind myself of. Like, I'm gonna go back just a little bit and then come back to this. When you talk about healing being linear, I thought two things when I started coaching and I saw the work working. Was I thought all of this heavy stuff has kept me so sad and negative and depressed and anxious for all these years. So as soon as I process it and I let most of it go and start really getting deep into it, then life is going to be rainbows and unicorns and I'm going to be happy all the time. And there's going to be this occasional thing that happens that makes me sad. And it's not that at all. Like, real life still happens. Real life keeps happening. And that's a big part of where this self-forgiveness comes in, right? Of you're doing the best that you can now. And then there's the specifically what you said of, I did the best I could back then. And I still have to tell myself, I thought when I started coaching, I thought my coach was a coach because he had it all figured out and he doesn't have any problems and doesn't deal with any of this stuff anymore. And that's why he coaches. And he made it very clear to me very early on that that is not true. He still has issues. He still has difficulties. He still has times where he gets stuck or he runs old patterns or he knows how to deal with it. And that's why a lot of us become coaches, is because we've experienced the parts where we have to have grace. So a saying that I use a lot now is, it doesn't matter if it was 10 seconds ago or 30 years ago. You did the best you could at the time with the knowledge you had, and you know that you're doing the best that you could, because if you could have done better, you would have. So you couldn't have done any different. And going back to say, what if, won't change anything. It keeps you stuck in the past. And the only time you have is right now, and right now, and right now. Like, that's all we have. The future will never happen because the future will always be the future. The past is already done and we can never bring any of that back and change it. So to forgive yourself right now is where you learn to forgive yourself back then. And it's a hard lesson. It's a very hard lesson. And it's scary. For me personally, it was terrifying to give myself grace and say it's okay that I make mistakes, because I lived in this range of perfection or failure, and those were the only two options. And if I wasn't perfect, I failed, and I always failed because I'm human. So you could never be perfect. So I was always setting myself up for failure. And to know that you get to fail, you get to fail, and there's nothing wrong with it. I was on a podcast the other day, and this was a live one that went out to, like 195 countries and 1.6 million subscribers. Like, it was huge.
Wow.
And the hosts were like, "Hey, welcome to the show." And I was like, thanks for allowing me to come. I said the dumbest thing. It was so dumb. And they were like, and that started a whole conversation of, look what I just did at the beginning of the show. I could hold that over me and say, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Or I could be like, I'm human. It happened. So what? And self-forgiveness doesn't have to be these huge, massive undertakings. It's like, I'm not going to think about that again. That's fine. I'm not going to let it impact my DNA. I'm not going to make a neural pathway that beats myself up about that. I'm not going to let my subconscious hold on to that. I messed up. Okay. It's okay. What can I do right now? Because that was 10 seconds ago. I can't change it now. It's gone. So it's freeing. And I know you know this. Once you let one little thing go for the first time, you find this peace, this little bit of, for me, it felt like opening. Like, I felt like I had space, and everything that I was carrying, I was starting to release, I was very black and
Yes.
heavy and dark inside, which I didn't realize until the first little bit of light opened up. And then I was like, oh, there's a lot for me to work through. And as it got bigger and bigger and bigger and brighter and brighter and brighter, and I felt lighter and illnesses started healing, ways of thinking started changing, it encouraged me to just keep doing more and more.
And then
I
it
used to
never
go ahead.
ends.
Never
It
ends.
never ends.
No, I used to hate it when people would be like, I'm just like everybody else. If I can do it, you can do it too. Like it used to drive me crazy. And I'm like, because I grew up thinking that you either were blessed with a great life or you were cursed with a horrible life. And I was cursed. And that is the box I had to stay in. And now I'm one of those annoying people that's like, man, if I can do it, like I was messed up. I have a lot of trauma. I was so broken. I'm on stages, I'm writing books, I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing all of these things, creating all these things that just were unimaginable before because now I have the freedom to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that too. And the last few years, I've really, like, since I've started doing that work, and I feel like I probably started doing the work maybe 7 years ago, but it wasn't properly. After my dad passed away, I was 28. Then, for about 2 years, I just kind of was in that real sad, and I also like blame myself a lot. What if I tried to do more? And I actually did this when I was younger as well. Another time he attempted suicide when I was 15. For a few years after that and 15-year-old, and I was the oldest, and I just didn't really know how to talk. I always had that got to be strong. My parents were strong. That's what I knew. And I think that is where that, as you mentioned before about the perfectionism, is that I got so perfect and everything had to be perfect. And, I didn't really know how to speak, and I internalized a lot of stuff. And that's also, again, where the ADHD, I'm combined type, so inattentive and hyperactive, but it changed in certain ways. And I was just always just that so much in my head. And once you do uncover that, it's just fascinating. It is. It's so fascinating.
I think the other thing that was super huge for me that keeps coming up for me to say right now is it's judgments, not just holding ourselves to why did I do that or that was bad or whatever. If we take away judgments that nothing is good or bad or right or wrong, it just is. It's like that example I gave you of where I babbled like the dumbest thing. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It just was. It just was. That takes so much pressure off of having to meet some sort of expectation, because all expectations really are arbitrary. There's no meaning to them except what we put on them, because something that could be bad for somebody could be good for somebody else, or it could be neutral for a third person. So there's really no right or wrong judgments. Things just are. The things that happened, they just are. And I found that I could find gratitude that I had been through stuff. I had been through trauma, not really what the trauma was, but that I had been through trauma so that I could help other people and find my purpose and be an example of resilience, because that's what the world needs, is examples, because we have examples of being forced to not be able to talk about it and to have to be a victim and to keep living in it. And if we have examples of there's a possibility for you, and that sometimes that possibility is hard. When I started working with my coach on possibility wasn't a thing for me. It was very black white, thinking it was or it wasn't. So there was no and it was either or. And I had to start working on the possibility of there being possibility in my life, is where I started. Like I went not even basics, like basics basement. Like I was so ground level of, I don't think things are possible for me, but I think that possibly they could be possible. And
And it's
once you really,
it is really, and it's a constant thing as well with your thoughts. It's okay to notice if you are starting to think negative about yourself, and this can kind of happen as you really start the journey, is you start to notice your thoughts a little bit more, would you say? You kind of, and it's not even about acting on it. It's about thinking, okay, that's stupid. Don't have to say stupid, but you know what I mean. If I think something now, I acknowledge it. And something my youngest brother really helped me with this, and he's done a lot of different type of healing work, and he's done a lot of Reiki, and but now he's kind of transitioned, and he does a lot of stuff with the church. So it's just like this beautiful evolution. He was the youngest of us. I've got 4 siblings, and there's 4 of us all together. And he said something that's always stuck with me, and it's you're allowed to think things, you're allowed to have
Mhm.
thoughts, but doesn't mean it's right. And that's something you'll
You
start to become aware of. And now, if I think something, my brain might automatically just go, because that's how powerful our brain is, that, we can't control our thoughts all the time. But what we can do
right?
is control how we react to them.
Yeah.
And
You don't
yeah,
have to believe everything you think.
yeah,
You don't have to believe it. You can doubt your doubts. You
yes,
know, that was huge for me, that I don't have to believe the words that go through my head. I don't have to believe whatever comes up. I have to believe whatever's in
mm,
your head.
yeah,
You know,
just needs to be
I
there.
have and I have ADHD too, and I wasn't diagnosed till I was 44. So it was
Yes,
much later in life. And
yeah,
again, like you being a female, you're taught that females don't have ADHD, right?
mm,
And so I always had this part of me that I felt like couldn't quite come out, and I was so in my head all the time. And the first time that somebody said, it's just a thought, and I was like, but you don't understand, it's like so heavy and huge and I have to carry this, and he's like, it's just a thought, if you don't like it, think something else.
yeah.
How is it so simple? But it truly, once you get the practices, once you have the understanding of what's really going on, you don't have to believe it, it's there. You don't have to act on it, you don't have to do anything with it, it's just there. Think something else.
Our brain's just gonna think on its own.
It is. I have you ever seen the movie Ghostbusters, the original one?
Oh, yes. There's a few of
I
those
so
now.
many there's a there's a few. So many times I would felt like I would try to empty my brain and I couldn't. Like I was thinking something and I'm like, I can't stop thinking it. Like it was just, and so I'd start thinking of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from that movie when they're like clear your brain, empty your brain, and the one actor is just Dan Aykroyd is like, I thought of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That's I literally that was a trick that I used for a long time to get used to changing the thought, that if it came into my head and I didn't like it or I didn't want it there, I was ruminating on stuff, I would start thinking the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And you'll pick up your own tricks and things like this, start doing the work. But yeah, it's amazing the things that we believe that we have to believe. I don't have to believe
That's
any
right.
of
And
it.
it's little things that you start to implement little practices and kind of rituals when you're doing this. And like I was saying before about the photo, when I had it originally in my bathroom, every morning I would see that photo and that's what would remind me. Or it's also, I've got a lot of progress, not perfection stickers, which,
Mhm.
you can even get stickers made to custom now. And they're really great. There's a lot of good brands out there. I can't remember where I ended up buying mine from, but it's having things in your face at the start as well, like affirmations, journaling. What are your thoughts on journaling?
I love it.
And they're little things.
I don't do it as much as I should, and I should.
Mm.
Again, that's as much as I wish I would, and I notice a difference when I go to those phases where I don't do it as much.
Yes. Yeah. No, I understand that as well, because life gets busy and you think you're in a
Mhm.
position where, oh, I don't need to really do that anymore, but things change and you always come back to that. And that's something that I
Right.
like to share a lot on episodes, is the fact that if you want to start something, just start writing your thoughts and your feelings. And you don't even have to keep them. Like if you don't want them to be, say, in paper, you could write it and you could throw it away. Or, there's
Mhm.
the other release technique where you can actually burn it to kind of let
Mhm.
go. You could type it up and delete it. Like, because some people, they don't want to write things down, because then it's kind of, then it's there and there on paper. But once you write something down and you see it and you read it, then you look at it at a different perspective. And
Mhm.
talking about writing, I'd love to have a bit of a chat about your book. So you're a contributing author?
I am. I am.
Yes.
I'll show you. I have it right
Oh,
here, actually.
yay. Perfect. I'll link it
So
all in the
this is a
show notes.
so
Oh,
this is a series called A Journey of Riches. This is, I believe, the 39th publication. And then
mhm.
this publication is Unlock Your Hidden Potential. And so these are all the authors. There's 13 of us from around the world. It is this one, I have friends. The way I found out about this was I have friends who have been in other publications in this series before. And so when John, who's the publisher, contacted me about it, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I want to be in this. And this book is incredible. There's three other people that I know personally who were in it. And then some of the other authors and I have all stayed together. We actually are getting together via Zoom again this weekend because we're all over the world. And
Wow.
these people, each person in this wrote a story about something that happened personally that was deeply heavy for them in their life and how they found their potential in overcoming it. And so this book it's just incredible. You can find any story in there that will relate to you. So not every story will relate to everyone, but there will be at least one story that relates to everybody. It's people who will deal with the death of parents. There is one woman who she had a terminal illness when she had two children who were like 3 and 5 years old and having to deal with possibly not being there for them. It's so many different things, and how each of us overcame the things that we were struggling. A lot of mine was the first 10 years and how that kind of changed my life. There was a certain part of that kept me stuck, and how that was transitioned by somebody else who didn't know that I was going through anything, but they were inspired, and it shifted everything for me to be able to shift from that victim to that survivor. And I recommend everybody get this book, not just because I'm in it, because all these other stories, I think I cried when I read each one of them. It's amazing. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so I'll be linking it in the show notes. So
Perfect.
We'll be able to add that in there. So that word that we're talking about before, resilience, this is going to be my new tattoo. What does it mean for you? If you could explain to our audience, the simplest way for resilience. It's going to look different for everybody, but at the end of the day, it does have a core meaning. So I'd love for you to share your thoughts on the word, the meaning resilience.
Resilience for me is deciding that you are somebody that you never believed you could be before, because you are. It's making that decision, and it all starts with a thought. It starts with a thought that you get to make, and you get to decide that I am okay. I have an alarm that goes off twice a day at 8:21 in the morning. I'm sorry, 11:21 in the morning, 8:21 at night. And all it says is I am enough. And that's all it is. Because for so long, I did not.
I have something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, there's these tricks that are universal in the foundation of them, but they work. They work. It's that constant reminder. And there's days where I shut off the alarm and I'm like, I'm not enough. Are you kidding? And then it'll go off at night and I'm like, yeah, that was a moment. I know that, but I was just irritated or sad or whatever. And I truly am, because it's the repetition. It's you looking at that picture of yourself every day and saying, this is who I want to get back to being. I didn't know that people could be authentic. I grew up in a family where we were actors, we were role players, and everybody thought we were the perfect family. But in the home, it was really horrific. And I didn't know any different. And so when I got out into the real world, it took me 20 years before I realized the version I see of most people is who they really are. I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know it was okay to be me, whatever that looks like, good, bad, ugly. There's no judgments. I just am who I am. And so once you can really deeply understand that who you are is imperfectly perfect, and you're perfectly imperfect, and that encompasses everything. And you're okay. You're great. You're perfect the way you are. Everything's happening exactly how it's supposed to. You're not too late. You're not too early. And everything happens the way it's supposed to. And you can be resilient when you realize that, and you just create whatever you want to create.
I love that. That was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Very important, I think, it's a word, that we often hear, but it's really embodying that. And I think that's a big part when you do see how far you can come and you start that journey. For people listening now that don't know where to start, one thing I can say is you're doing the right thing by listening to this podcast. And absolutely. There's so much research out there, and there's so many podcasts and people sharing things now. I think it's more, we've really removed that societal pressure and that stigma that a lot of people grew up in, people before us, where back 30, 40 years, you didn't talk about it. I think it always stems back from, if you've got issues with your mental health, back in the day, I don't know the years, but, people were taken away for that. And that's not something that happens now. Like, we're always told, you know, to speak up and to talk about things, and that's why I'm always like healing out loud and share as much as we want to share. But there still is that stigma which we need to try and remove, and know that it's not society that has to shape our beliefs or our personality or the way that we want to live. It's ourselves, and more than likely we are our own worst critic. Because a lot of people don't really care. It's just we're in our head that we think that they do. We think people are going to care if we do this or we do something wrong or we make a mistake. And there's so much pressure we do put around us. Often we will step back and be like, well, actually, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. It only matters how I think about myself, because I'm the person that needs to go to bed every night on my, you know, own, or with your partner or anyone, but still you're still on your own. You're in your own person, and you need to be the best version of yourself, whether it's for your family, whether partner, or, you know, anyone. But it always just comes back down to being the best version of yourself.
Not the perfect version. The person that's always working and trying to be better. And that's just like you said, it's about the progression. It's not about the perfection. You know, people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are, because they're thinking that you're thinking about them. Like, we're so worried, like you said, about what other people think. No, nobody's watching. They truly aren't, because they're watching what other people are watching about them. And so if we can just realize that the only thing that matters, like you said, is who we are when we go to bed at night, that will, I'm going to say solve, but that will help heal so much. And I love that you're doing this podcast and you're getting this word out there for people. Thank you for what you're doing to help people heal in this world.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Cari. That's so nice for you to thank me as well. I really appreciate that. So I'd love to know what's next for you. What have you got planned in the works? So anything exciting coming up that you want to share? Or I know we said before, like, the future's not here. It's all about now. But yeah, you're already doing so many amazing things. So anything you want to give us a little teaser about that we can wait to come out or something like that?
You're so sweet. I actually have been asked to be in 2 more anthologies. One of them I've said no to because I just don't have the bandwidth to do it right now, but I probably will be in the future. One of them was the same author of the anthology that I was in. And so in the future, maybe a year or 2 down the road, I probably will be in another one of those. And then I had somebody who is creating her first anthology for a community that she's creating ask me to be in her first book. And so working on that now. Don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but so that I have look forward to. I've decided at end of February that I wanted to speak 50 times this year. And
wow,
it
love
doesn't
that goal.
Thank you. I started in January, like I said, speaking at my first conference, and we had an interview. So I spoke on stage with somebody. He and I spoke together, and we had an interview with the MCs that was done over Zoom before the conference. And then that really sparked something for me. Like I said, I wanted to do that since I was a teenager, but I didn't think I had anything that anybody would want to hear anything about. And so end of February, I said, you know what? I want to be a speaker. And so I need to speak. That's how you become a speaker. So I decided I was going to speak at 50, whether events or seminars or Zoom meetings or whatever, podcasts. This is actually, so in the last 4 months, this is the 20th event or interview or something, the 20th speaking. By the middle of July, I'll have half of them done. And so I'm going to have that done this year. So we'll see if there's what else is going to come up, what those other 25 will be for the rest of the year. Like you and I talked about beforehand, I've got this little mini podcast that are probably next week is my goal. It's going to be going out to 4 or 5 different media platforms. So that's going to be created in a bigger way. So there's a lot of things that are in the works right now. I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, I'll put all the connections to the podcast in the show notes. So you'll be able to give me that and link to your website. So as we close up for today, I'd love for you to give some key takeaways, things that we've discussed, and some tips, some insights to our listeners. Anyone that's there listening, what would you say to them after our chat today?
So what's initially coming to me is to share my motto that I've taken on for this year. A lot of people do a word. I do a motto. And my motto that I took on this year was do it scared. And so whatever you're going to do, especially if it's in the healing realm, it doesn't do it tired, do it anxiously, do it trepidatiously, do it, in pain. It doesn't, just do it, because you can start right now. And in 6 months, you can be on a journey part way down to who and where you want to be. Or in 6 months, you could be exactly where you are right now, suffering, being miserable every day. And so whatever it is you want to do, whether it's a goal you want to accomplish, whether it's some sort of healing, do it scared. But just take that first step, because like I talked about earlier, once you take that step, the next step gets easier. And then it gets a little bit easier, and it gets a little bit easier until you are running and you're accomplishing everything that you want to.
Wow, that's great. I love that.
And get in touch with me if you want help with that, man. I'm open to a conversation with anybody to see what we can do to help them, or if they want to, if there's somebody else that would be better fitted for them, get them in touch with somebody else. But yeah, if anybody needs help, or, wants a direction, or to see if coaching is for them, reach out and talk to me. We'll just have a conversation.
And that's where it starts. Just a simple conversation. You don't know what will come from it. And as you said before, if you're scared to reach out, do it scared. I couldn't have put it a better way. Is do it scared. Know that you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable if you want that next step, if you want that. It all starts small. And I think this conversation has really showed us, healing's not just an option. It's not just possible. Like, it's just, there's so much there. And once you choose to believe that you can change and you can be more and you deserve more, I think it's really a thing about deserving more than understanding that and giving yourself grace. You don't know how exciting it can be. And I guess that's, why we're so passionate about sharing what we do, because we just know. And going back to before, someone, says to you, just kind of deal with it. Like, you do get to a position now where, yeah, we have bad days, but you move on. You have processes and systems, and you know how to navigate through certain challenges. Yeah.
And when you have a bad day, I had a bad day yesterday. I was in tears most of the day because I was upset about something, and it was okay. I didn't have to be upset at myself, and I had to remind myself of this, but it was okay. I can feel upset, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then today, you go and you start the next day again.
Well, Cari, thank you so much for today. It's been a really touching, eye-opening too, because a lot of the things you've said I really resonate with. And it allows us to not only just share both of our perspectives, but as a collective of people trying to help and guide people through to their next stage and understand that and, heal that trauma and not just survive, but thrive. I think it's good when people connect and have conversations like we're having that, that we talk about all the time, but seeing the relatability to it, and that there's so much people out there and we're just two people, and then already the people that you connect with and I connect with. So it's just that ricochet. Yes. Thanks again for your time. Is anything else you want to share?
No, I just, again, want to thank you for the work that you do and for helping get the word out there. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cari. We'll talk to you soon. And as I said, I'll link all the show notes and we will see you next week.